April. Chapter 1. April Johnson had been crammed inside an apartment in San Francisco for 2 years, as the owners of the building refurbished it, where they took a large 3-story pre-war home and turned it into units small enough where she felt a dog's kennel felt larger than where she was living, and it would be a step up. And with the walls so thin, all she could do was listen to the latest developments of her new neighbors. Their latest and only developments were the sex they appeared to be having late at night on the sofa, on the kitchen table, on the floor, and in the shower. But tonight, the recent development occurred in the bed. If she had her way, she would have preferred that they didn't use the bed for sex, because for some reason it was next to the paper-thin wall which separated her apartment from theirs. They were like her, young, energetic, and go-getters willing to work all hours to become rich in the technology field. But with one exception, they were a young couple, and when they weren't working they were fucking. And fucking. And fucking. For heaven's sake. Stop at this time of night, she screamed at the wall. But that never stopped anything. They got louder. And louder and louder. She had tried using earbuds to lull herself to sleep, but not even that could silence the moans, groans, shouting and kicking as the bed banged against the wall. There were serious drawbacks living and working in San Francisco. She had given up spacious apartments in other neighboring cities to live in San Francisco, where she could catch the trolley car to get to work. It was a little savings, but not much. As April lay in her bed wondering when she could get out of San Francisco and go someplace that didn't feel as if she was dying, the noise of moaning and groaning and descriptions of female body part grew louder and unbearable. That's right, put it all in your mouth. Yes. Yes. I want to feel your throat on my tip. Now take more of my cock. I want to know that you're mine, a male voice said, shouting at the top of his lungs. Or it appeared to be shouts, but April couldn't be sure. Obviously the woman couldn't speak, because she was probably occupied making the man's dreams come true at her own discomfort. It's not that April was opposed to early morning sex, on the contrary, she would have loved to have had such mind-blowing sex and waking them up instead. But she wasn't that lucky, and she had to get up early to travel to a job she mildly enjoyed. And as soon as she received her Christmas bonus check, she would be able to evaluate whether she would stay on at her company, because she needed an apartment where the walls weren't paper-thin, so she could bring a date by, and maybe get lucky enough to disturb someone early in the morning with screams of ecstasy. I'm coming, baby. Now swallow it, because I have more where that came from. Yes. Yes, that's my girl. Maybe he was whispering, but because of how thin the walls were, it sounded as if he was lying in the bed next to April, and she was the one he was forcing his penis down her throat. April thought banging on the wall would stop the disturbing, incessant, unpleasant, titillating noise. I can hear you, she said. It's 3 a.m. in the morning, and I have to get to work by 6. Shut up. Can't you see I'm trying to get an orgasm? The hoarse voice yelled. No, I can't see, thank God. Next time put a ball inside your mouth. Wow. You sound kinky and a little slutty to me. Would you like to join us? The voice said in a low, seductive tone amid the moans and whispers of yes. Yes. That's good right there. Keep doing what you're doing, he said. Not on your life would I join you two perverts. Now shut the fuck up and let me get some sleep. Anything for you, babe. I like the sound of your voice, and just made me come again. For Christ's sake. And April stirred in the bed, moving around, and pulled the pillow over her head, and tried to get back to sleep. She couldn't, because she was up. Wide awake and irritated. She couldn't deny that she was aroused by the sounds coming from the apartment next door. Frustrated, she stepped on the wood floor. Then she heard someone banging on their ceiling. It was coming at her all kinds of ways now. Standing in one spot and closing her eyes, then inhaling and exhaling, she tramped to her small kitchen to get some peace and get something to eat. She opened the fridge and looked around. Putting her hand on the Coke in a can, she sighed, if I drink that I'll be up all night, no way. So she poured herself a small glass of orange juice and took a bite of a cold raisin bagel without toasting it. Then she sat at the table where only two people could sit comfortably, if one was a midget. The chairs and table looked like something you would find in a children's dollhouse of the rich. Looking around at the miniature kitchen, she said, "What am I doing here?" She put her hand under her chin. "I have to get out of this place." Then she glanced down at her cat. Obviously, her complaining and the neighbor's erotic moans had awakened him. It probably made her tomcat horny, because he signaled by jumping up on the windowsill that he wanted out of that place. April raised the window and her cat took off. April sucked in a large breath and put her head down. When she raised her head, her clock alarm went off at precisely 6 a.m. She rushed into the room to take a shower and heard her neighbor banging on the wall. "Do something with that damn clock," he said. "If I have to be awakened at this god-awful hour of the morning, then my sexual habits shouldn't bother you." After thinking about whether she should answer him or not, she decided the wise thing to do was to let it ride. She walked into her tiny shower and stayed only long enough where she could refresh herself for a long, endless day of reading emails and answering calls for an absent boss who rarely shows his face. In fact, it had been so rare that in the 2 years of working at Steele's International, she had never seen him, which was fine with her. She hoped he stayed up in his ivory tower and never brought his ass down, at least until she had a chance to get her raise where she could buy a car and get a decent place to live in one of the neighboring cities where rent was cheaper, but the commute was hell. At least she wouldn't have to go to work aroused each morning. April dressed in her dark blue suit with a white shirt, applied a little makeup, applied her lip gloss, and sprayed something on her curly afro to give it a shine. She stood back and said, "Looking good, April. Now get your happy ass out. You're going to be late." She placed her expensive red-bottom high heels into her bag for a meeting at a local bar with her girlfriends. She looked forward to that meet-up on Fridays. And now, since it was December, they would trade information about their bosses, bonus checks, and Christmas parties. Reaching for her purse containing her limited luxuries like an expensive lipstick and shoes, she locked her door and trotted down the hallway. She turned slightly when she heard a door open and close, and then the sound of footsteps behind her. As she reached the stairs, she peeked behind her. Their eyes met, and she knew by his conversation behind the skeletal wall he would say something. She felt it would be better if she ignored him. "I like what I'm seeing," his voice low and seductive. Not a bad voice. But could she risk turning to see the face behind the voice? Against her judgment, she turned slightly. Big mistake. Then she walked quickly, praying that he wouldn't close the distance between the two of them. "Well, I don't like what I just saw," April said. She couldn't help herself. She had to say something. "Big mistake. Don't get me wrong. I love black chicks, and you have an ass that I would like to ride and a mouth, well, you know what I would do with it." Oh my God, April thought. Look what I just unleashed. Stopping in her tracks and pivoting around to face him, she reached into her bag. "If you don't stop harassing me, I'm going to tell your girlfriend." "Go ahead. She already asked me if I would ask you if you wanted to do a threesome," he said causally with a closed grin. April's mouth opened wide, and she rolled her eyes and at the same time pulled something out of her purse. "Do you see this? Your car keys. What are you, some kind of ninja warrior where you can kill me with your keys?" "No. It's Mace and I going to spray it on you, and then I'm going to kick you in the balls, and you won't be able to fuck your girlfriend for weeks or months if I'm lucky." He raised his hands in surrender. "I was warned about you black chicks." April turned and walked away from him. He kept his distance and she said, "You must have gotten your information from the television. Women, black or white, don't want to be harassed by a dick like you." "I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke?" "That's what all pussies say when they're getting ready to get fucked," April said, not turning around. She rushed for the door. She didn't hear any shoe heels scuffing behind her. She took in and blew out a large breath of relief. She'll never make that mistake again. She reached for the doorknob, opened the door and ran out to catch her cable car to get to her job. She would probably be late now. Dominic. Chapter 2. Dominic Steele had worked all his life trying to build a company where he could get rich and waste his life fucking women all over the globe. That was his dream when he found himself rich at 30 and dateless. He didn't count the women, he couldn't remember their names, after he would get drunk at an occasional Christmas party he attended at his friends' homes. He did remember waking up one morning on the beach with his dick in a woman's mouth, but that didn't count because he didn't know her name and he didn't want to know it. He couldn't call that a date. He had no time for dating, and he had to get his sex wherever he found it, and it was usually at Christmas parties. But one he did remember was his high school prom. He hadn't had a date since his high school, and even then he didn't have time for her. He remembered asking the queen of the prom out, and she accepted his invitation. When he asked her why she would accept a date from him, she said, "Because you're a nerd and girls know nerds make the best husbands. And you have a great-looking car." That was an eye-opener, because he never wanted to be married. He had no time for that, and he didn't have time to have sex with his date before and after the prom. It was expected that after the prom, very few girls and guys would remain virgins. The dates would get shit-faced and fuck and pretend that they weren't aware that they had sex. But it wouldn't happen that night because he brought her home after the prom, and dropped her in front of her house, and left in his great-looking car because he didn't have time to pick up a latex, and because he had a flight out to a technology convention in Las Vegas. She would have had sex with him without the latex, but Dominic couldn't take any chances. His main focus was on other things, like starting a tech company. When Dominic got his startup going, the year after college, he was 22, and now he's 27 and asking what happened. "What happened?" his college roommate and now Dr. Jordan Nelson asked. They sat in a booth at a bar and gave a toast to their friendship. "You haven't taken a break from that job or had good sex since you were in college. What happened to Jenna Ann anyway?" He just remembered Jenna Ann. After he fucked her, he gave her a job. He needed something and she needed a job. "I hired her to run my company. No, to supervise my employees. She does a great job at that. Even sold me a home next to her family's place. I guess she thought we were going to get married. Like anyone else in my life, I didn't have time. When I got time, I visited my high school sweetheart again. Went back to the scene of the crime and fucked my prom date. I thought I would marry her too. I didn't want to have a relationship with a woman unless we were married. I don't believe in sleeping around." She had other thoughts. "Which makes this even worse than I thought. And look at the way you dress. I wouldn't fuck you if I was gay, but maybe Brock would, let's ask him." They turned to wave at Brock, another one of their friends from college, who had stayed friends with them longer than they could remember. Brock strutted over to the large brown leather booth. "I see you started without me," Brock said. "And what have you been doing lately? Boning any new interns or secretaries?" Brock rolled his eyes. "I expect that from you, Jordan." "You know I don't believe in eating where I sleep," Brock said as he sat down near Dominic. He turned to look at him and said, "What's wrong with you beside that suit you're wearing?" "It looks like something your father would have worn," Brock said, looking at Jordan. "That's what I thought," Jordan said. "It was a suit my father gave me when I started my company," Dominic said, sitting straight up as if proud of his father's suit. "I just haven't had time to buy new clothing." "You have tons of money. What the fuck are you doing with it?" Brock asked. "I know he isn't giving it to a woman because he doesn't have any, and he acts like he hasn't been between a woman's legs in years. You know nothing has changed. They still have the same equipment. A muff and that little man in the boat," Jordan said with a smirk. "What are you talking about?" Dominic said, narrowing his eyes and shaking his head. "See what I mean, Brock?" "He knows nothing about women," Jordan said. "Don't ask me because I know even less," Brock said. "That's my point. We expect you not to know about women because you're gay," Jordan said, raising his hand to the waitress. "And?" Brock said. And you probably would faint if you came across one who liked you and didn't know you were that way, Jordan said as he and Dominic exchanged glances. Excuse me, but this isn't about Brock and whether he's gay or likes women. I have a problem and I need some advice, Dominic said. Brock can only give advice on clothing. I wouldn't trust anything he would say when it comes to women. Now that's my department, Jordan said, sticking out his chest. You know, black men are authorities on women because we aren't afraid to be turned down. We never take no. If we want a woman, we follow her and wear her down, if you know what I mean, Jordan said with a closed smile as his eyes followed the waitress around the room. That sounds like stalking to me, Brock said with a closed smile. The waitress turned and headed their way. Jordan nudged Dominic in the side. The young blonde waitress stood over them dressed in black short shorts and a white T-top. What would you boys like to drink? They gave her their order and she left. Jordan turned to Brock. What was that all about? She looked at you the whole time, as if she wanted to fuck you on the table. It's that aura we gay men have that women think they can change us from gay to straight, Brock said, looking across Dominic at Jordan. Well, you are causing a lot of problems for men like me and Dominic. Speak for yourself, Jordan. Brock and I aren't competing for the same type of women, Dominic said. Men? I like sex with men. Present company excluded, Brock said, looking up and seeing the young waitress standing in front of Jordan. At hearing Brock, she rolled her eyes and placed their beers in front of them and took off with a sour look. See what I mean? You have disappointed another young woman by taking yourself out of the pool of eligible men. And this one here should be in the pool, and he has been wasting his life away trying to get rich, Jordan said. Doctors are rich, Dominic said. But not as rich as a single young white male with no children who doesn't date and doesn't have to spend money to get a woman to fuck you. I happen to be married with 4 children and getting poor every day, Jordan said. That's because you're married to a white woman and she keeps having children and she needs a maid. Why didn't you marry a black woman? From what I hear, they like doing their own cleaning and they know how to clean, Brock said, taking a sip of his beer from a glass. That's stereotyping, Jordan said. I didn't always date white girls. Black women like money as much as anyone. I see you don't watch much television. And they don't want to clean and cook anymore. I met a woman that was right for me, and I didn't check to see if she was black or white. The opposite always attract. That's one of the laws of nature. No offense, Brock. Well, my better half is black. So I don't know what you're talking about, Brock said, crossing his legs and reaching for his glass and sipping his beer. Now back to our dear friend Dominic. Jordan slapped Dominic on the shoulder. What can we do for you, Dominic, and what can you do to spruce up his image, Brock? I can send you to my tailor. He can make you a bespoke suit, Brock said. A what? Jordan asked. I can't believe you went to medical school and you don't know what bespoke means, Brock said, proud of the fact that he knew something Jordan didn't know. Mr. Know-it-all doesn't know that bespoke means it's made especially for that person, Brock said, looking at Jordan and Dominic. Did you know that, Dominic? Dominic shook his head yes. He had gone to some of the best schools and traveled abroad, but when it came to women, he was a novice and just getting started. He would make sure his next years would be having fun and fucking all the women he set his eyes on. After all, what was money for if not to enjoy it? The first thing I see is that you have to lose those glasses and get some contacts. I've never seen you without them even when we were roommates. I've seen you naked, and you were wearing those hideous glasses. Have you ever seen him without those big black horn-rimmed glasses, Jordan? Brock asked. Dominic reached for his eyeglasses and placed them on the table. Damn, you look like a new man, Jordan said. Handsome. But not as handsome as me, of course. A young Brad Pitt before Angelina. I didn't know you had green eyes. I would even fuck you, Brock said, and Dominic's brow furrowed. You know what I mean, Dominic. Then Dominic smiled at Brock, letting him know he understood. That sealed that. He would get contacts. Anything else I need to do? Dominic asked. Lear how to eat pussy, Jordan said. Brock raised an eyebrow. I'm well versed on that front, Dominic said. Well, excuse me. I guess you had time for that. You must be holding something from us, Jordan said, slanting his head to the side. I need a critique on my looks. Should I grow a beard? Yeah, that. And get the fuck out of San Francisco for a few weeks and get some sun. Go to the beach where the women are. You've heard of California girls. It's true. I met my wife in Los Angeles on the beach. Your skin looks pasty like you've been held hostage. Lie around the beach, soak up some sun, watch the girls, and then fuck day and night, and then come back to your company. It will still be there, and you will be a new man. Trust me, women won't be able to resist you. After all, you have a great body. You just need to calm the fuck down, Jordan said, looking to Brock to validate his thoughts. Brock nodded yes at every sentence. A smile crossed Dominic's face. I've got a place in Malibu. Why the fuck didn't you say something before I got married? We could have had my bachelor party there instead of Vegas, Jordan said, looking at Dominic. I think I'll take your advice and go to my Malibu home. I've got a Christmas party for my company employees coming up, and I've been meaning to attend and just haven't gotten around to it. Didn't have the time. Dominic shook his head. Then take the time. Life's too short, and damn man, I bet you haven't had good sex in years. Crazy mindless sober sex. Fucking day and night. Trying everything. Your cock's staying hard, Jordan said with a broad smile showing his brilliant white teeth. The kind you never want to let go of, Jordan said, looking at Dominic with a wide smile as if he was reliving it in his mind. You're lucky you don't go blind, Jordan said, laughing at Dominic, who wasn't amused. Just kidding. I know. No one who has an ounce of sense would believe that old wives' tale, but just the same, get you some pussy, dude, or whatever floats your boat. I don't judge, Brock said, smiling at Dominic. Don't look at me like that, Brock, it makes me nervous, Dominic said. You're not my type, Brock said. Now? You've hurt my feelings, Dominic said, glancing at his watch. I have to call Ralph and have him open my Malibu home and get it clean for the weekend. I hate to leave you guys, but I have things to do tomorrow. Like buy a new pair of glasses and get some contacts. Don't forget my tailor. Here's his card, Brock said, reaching inside his suit pocket. Another thing. If you find a girl you like, just tell her you're gay, and you won't have to worry, she'll fuck you that first night. Come on. I don't think I'll go that far, Dominic said. It works, Jordan said. I told my wife I was gay. Took Brock's advice. Women seem to think that everyone in San Francisco is gay. I thought that would turn her off, but she kept coming on to me. She knew you were a doctor, and you had never had a gay relationship in your life. Every time a woman passed you, you were looking at her ass as if you were sniffing her like a dog in heat. Women aren't stupid. They have detectors. They know when you're serious. So remember, Dominic, if you go the gay route, you can't go for long because they will test you and you will fail the test, and they will have you by your dick and balls, Brock said with a smirk. After leaving his friends, Dominic was sorry he had even consulted those two. He was back where he started, totally confused. He would take some of their advice, but not all. He would start with the eyeglasses. The suits would come later. All he needed in the way of clothes were swim trunks and suntan lotion. It was time to come out and stop hiding behind his job. He had all the money he needed now, and what next? Now it was time to pay his employees back for all their sacrifices and hard work, and do something special for himself, take time off and relax. April. Chapter 3. Are you going this afternoon? The minute December rolls around, the parties start, April said. Excuse me? I start partying the minute I take in the jack-o'-lanterns down. That's when I hang out the Christmas lights, and they may not come down until June. Don't you think that's a little too soon? April said to Kesha as they rushed into the office from lunch after taking off their flats and depositing them into their desk drawer. They turned on their computers at their desk where they sat side by side. "No one's back from lunch yet," Kesha said, looking around. "That's what you get for following the rules. The holiday comes around, and that's the time to celebrate. Yesterday we got drunk in the restroom and no one noticed," Kesha said with a giggle. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because we didn't want you raining on our parade. No one's around to tell us we can't do that. They're all on vacation, but they're coming in for the annual Christmas party a week before Christmas. That fucking boss of ours thinks that because he never sleeps and he works his ass off, we should do the same. And if he doesn't give me a better Christmas bonus, he might not see my ass next year," Kesha said. "You've been saying that since I came here. But I do need more in my check. I need to get another apartment. I have this pervert who gets off by letting everyone in the apartment building know how good he's enjoying himself having sex. Wow. I'd like to meet him," Kesha said, rubbing her hands together and gyrating around in her chair as if she's doing a lap dance. "Seriously, I have to move. I can't get any rest. I have a vacation coming, and I need to go somewhere and sleep for a week. You know I would invite you over, April, but my boyfriend Randy doesn't like my friends," Kesha said. "He never met me." "I know, but he thinks they're a bad influence on me." "He doesn't know you very well, does he?" April said as she raised an eyebrow. "Does he know about your former boyfriend and what a jerk he was?" "No, and I don't plan on telling him." "Well, when he shows up at your door drunk and asking to come in and professing his love for you, then I won't have to tell Randy. He'll know what kind of men you date." "Used to date." "At least I was dating." She turned to April. "I haven't seen you date anyone since you've been working here, and there are plenty of guys that want to take you out," Kesha said. "I'm just not interested. I have to save enough money for an apartment. Once a man sees me living in that broom closet, it will turn them off. Which is great for me at this time. I'm just not where I want to be in life." "Who is and where the fuck is that?" "I want a fancy convertible. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. I want a diamond ring, and it doesn't have to be a big one, and most of all, I want to marry a rich, handsome man. There is no way in hell you're going to find a Santa like that. Not in San Francisco. You may have to go away for that, and speaking of leaving, didn't you say you needed to get away? Well, here comes Jenna Ann. She's looking for someone to do house sitting." "Hey Jenna, she's one of those rich white girls who wants to work for a living," Kesha whispered out the side of her mouth. "But if you ask me, she's after the boss. Hey girl. I found someone to do house sitting." "Hi, is everything okay?" "This is April." "You know April," Kesha said. Jenna, a tall brunette with flawless skin and gray eyes, strutted in April and Kesha's direction. She wore tailored suits from the best stores in San Francisco. She never failed to have on a pair of high heels. That's because she rarely left her office and rarely walked around the large building. She fired off emails from her computer and kept everyone busy where she knew where they were every minute. "Hi. Jenna. We know each other. I'm her assistant." "You're in today," April said, surprised. "I've called and emailed everyone on that list you sent me," April said. April is looking for a place where she can rest for a week. Jenna's face gave way to a wide smile. "You're an answer to my prayers. My parents asked me to stay at their home, and I have all this work and it is due next week. I had to turn them down. Could you do me a favor, April? Just this once? You can do your work from there." April didn't like what Jenna had proposed. Even on her vacation, Jenna was loading her up with things to do. She's impressing the boss with April's hard work and getting raises at April's expense. But April needed the money and she needed to work, so she grinned. "That's perfect for a vacation." "It's next week," April said. "Where is their home located?" "In Los Angeles on the beach." I'm afraid I can't go. I can't afford the fare, April said, hoping to get out of it. It's not that expensive, Kesha said. April glanced up at Kesha with narrow eyes. Don't worry about the fare and the taxi expense. I've got that. The place is fully stocked with everything you want to drink and eat. Just relax and rest, and I'll send you some papers as attachments. You will be doing me a big favor. I have to complete some reports for Mr. Steele. Did you check his email and make appointments for him? Jenna questioned. Sure. Everything's completed because I had planned on taking my vacation this year, but only 1 week. April looked up at the time Dominic Steele emerged from his office and was leaving to go to a tailor. Who is that? I've never seen him before, April asked. Mr. Steele. He rarely comes out of his office. I've been trying to get him to go to dinner with me, but he works his ass off and then goes home. Something important must have happened for him to show his face. He likes to give his employees space to do their jobs, without them being afraid that someone is looking over their shoulders. He is confident that his HR hired the most competent and able people. Like you, April. You've never seen him, and you're his personal assistant. Well, mine too. He raves about you all the time, Jenna said. More like your personal assistant and his. You're probably taking the credit for all that work I've been doing, April thought. How old is he? April said, looking over past the desk and through the open windows. She caught a glimpse of him from behind. He's 27. And Jenna Ann took off waving at Dominic Steele to wait for her. She caught him, and they entered the elevator together. He doesn't look 27, April said to Kesha. Look at that sorry plaid suit he's wearing. Are you sure he's got any money? Because that's the only reason I can see for these sad bonuses we've been getting. And why haven't we seen him before? Kesha said. He must be ashamed of being a tightwad. Mr. fucking Scrooge. He works until everyone is gone. He doesn't date. At least that's the talk around here, April said. I've come to one conclusion. He's gay. I should have known that. With a fine ass like that and he hides it underneath those clothes, he's got to be gay or I don't know what the fuck he is, but he's strange, Kesha said. Why does everyone have to be gay or strange in San Francisco, Kesha? April asked. We live in San Francisco and we're not gay or strange. 80% of his workforce are females, and he never once came down to speak to us. This is a henhouse for a rooster, Kesha said. Did you even see the way he walked? April said, her head slanted with a smile crawling across her face. I saw his tight hard ass. He looks tough and lean, April said. He's a hen, Kesha said. No. He's a rooster, I should know, Jenna Ann said in a southern drawl. When April and Kesha looked up, she was standing over them with her arms crossed, staring at the elevator with a smile. We have a dinner date. Kesha cut her eyes at April. Time out with all this talk. I have to finish my work so I can go to Los Angeles tomorrow. Can I house sit starting tomorrow? April said to Jenna. The sooner the better, and I'll take care of all the arrangements. See me before you leave today. Would you like to have a drink with us this evening? Kesha said. Sure. I'll stop by your office, April said. When Jenna left, Kesha glanced at her. Why did you invite her for drinks? Don't you know she's Mr. Steele's right hand? She's the one who watches us for him, Kesha said with a grim look, her mouth drooping at the corners. If you do your work, then what do you have to worry about? April questioned. I might get drunk and say something I shouldn't. Then don't get drunk. You shouldn't get drunk anyway. But it's Christmas, and I need to get drunk to go home to my boyfriend who has a stick up his ass. I have to be drunk to deal with him. He likes his meals on time, the bed made every morning and his house clean, and he wants me to cook. I'm not used to cleaning up behind a man. And fuck cooking. That's what we have fast food for. Then get a maid. You know how some men are, and he's a black man. He thinks he already has a maid. Me. Then stand up to him, tell him to do the shit himself. That's easy for you to say, April. You don't have a man fucking you good and making you hot every night where you want to do anything and everything for him. Like go down on him in the shower. It's hard on the knees. No. And I hope I never get like that. It could happen to you one day. I hope it's soon so you know how I feel. I'll deal with that when it happens, but it's not happening today. Now can we get on with our work? After today, I'm going to need to get drunk. White girl drunk, April said with Kesha laughing and agreeing. April. Chapter 4. Finally, April reached the airport into Los Angeles and took a limo out to Malibu. Jenna called her as the taxi entered the gated community and pulled up the driveway to Jenna's parents' home. Did everything go okay? I left special instructions for security. Great. No problems. This is going to be the best time I've had in years, April said, looking around and catching a whiff of the ocean air. Speaking of a good time, I'd like to thank you for inviting me out with you and your girlfriends. I really appreciate you doing that. Everyone's afraid of me, and I can't make any friends around the office. Let me thank you for this great vacation in this lovely house. Now I can get some rest, that is after I get these reports off to you. April and Jenna Ann said goodbye. She switched her phone off and reached into her purse to tip the driver, but he said it wasn't necessary because everything was taken care of by Jenna. Walking into the art-filled house was like walking into a dream. Modern art on the walls. Low-sectional sofa in cream colors. The kitchen to die for and a dream if she cooked. Now she would have to cook. No fast food for this place, she said. April dropped her bag and headed straight for the balcony. She stood gripping the railing, leaning forward. The fresh ocean air hit her, and she thought she had died and gone to heaven. She took a deep breath and sank onto a chair on the deck. She looked to her right, there were stairs, and down those stairs in front of the house, the Pacific Ocean. She would lie in the sun and get a tan, and maybe dip her feet in the cold ocean water. She had a week's worth of dreams she thought would come true. Her light skin was never as light as it had been since she came to San Francisco, and all that fog and cold had contributed to her taking on an even lighter color. She wanted to be honey brown again. Maybe because she had been working from sun up to sundown, that she didn't realize she had lost the true color of her skin. She would get it back, and today she would get herself back. She would be herself again. She raised her arms over her head and leaned back and closed her eyes. When she woke it was midday, so she sauntered into the house. Still she felt tired. April didn't turn on the television as she sank on the soft sofa. She didn't eat. She was too tired to do either. When she woke again it was dark except for the moon overhead. She could see lights in the house next door. She remembered thinking that Jenna had said that the house was vacant and no one would be there. So she rose from the sofa and managed to get her tired self to change into a large t-shirt. Her sleeping uniform, which consisted of an old tee and bikini underwear. Trotting to the fridge, she grabbed a wedge of exotic cheese and crackers she had never seen or tasted before. She ate and headed into the bedroom. She stood looking at the bed with a smile. April fell asleep across a large California king, and as the temperature dropped, she woke and searched around the bedroom to find a blanket in the closet and wrapped herself in it. Just as she was getting comfortable, there was a large banging of music and screams. The bass was so deep, it felt as if she was going to be knocked out of the bed by the rumbling sound. Oh, for fuck's sake. Who did I kill to deserve this? She jumped to the floor and rushed to the terrace. From the terrace, she saw that someone was having a party. When the music died down for a second, and before it started again, she heard the voices of young men and women in the house, and about 20 more outside running and screaming and jumping into the ocean. There was an especially chilling laugh when they discovered how cold the water was. April stood on the terrace and yelled, "Can you please lower the music?" Everyone continued, as if they didn't hear or see her. "Can you turn down that music?" she tried, screaming over the guitar playing and drums. Then she spotted this incredible handsome man looking at her from his deck. "We're having a party." He had a bottle of liquor in his hand, and he took a drink. "I can see that. But I'm trying to sleep," April said. "Are you sleeping alone?" "That's none of your business." "Too bad. But you need to lighten up. It's Christmas. We're having a party." "It's not Christmas yet, and I'm trying to get some rest," April shouted. "Can you turn the music down? Why don't you come over here and we can rest together, but I don't guarantee you or I will be sleeping. I might even straighten out that afro for you." That did it. Another rude asshole, she thought. "You probably couldn't do anything drunk as you are." She grinned and said, "But I bet if you came to me, I would put some lead in that pencil." He glanced down at the stairs and swayed a little. He thought about going to April, but knew he couldn't make it down the stairs without falling on his ass. He didn't want to take a chance on falling down his stairs and never making it up her stairs. That wouldn't be cool in front of this pretty woman. "Come over here and I'll show you how drunk I am." The music slowed, and two women sauntered on the terrace and took both of his hands, and after looking April's way pulled him into the house. April stood and watched as a light came on in one of the upper floors. She watched as she saw three silhouettes enter a room, and the man lay down on the bed. The lights were turned off in that room, but she could still see them. The man on his back, one woman between his legs, apparently with his cock in her mouth, she envisioned, and heaven knows what the other woman was doing. She went back into the house, jumped into bed, and placed her earbuds in and a pillow over her head, and tried to get some sleep. It was difficult, but not impossible, because she had been working her ass off for Steele's Incorporation. When she woke, she was surprised how relaxed she felt, even after that annoying music and that smoking hot guy standing on the terrace baiting her. She wished she had taken him up on his offer, but she didn't do the threesome or foursome thing. She was an old-fashioned girl looking for an old-fashioned guy to light her fire. She just wanted mindless crazy sex between two people. If he ate her and she sucked him off, that would be fine with her, but just the two of them going at it. Not a crowd. Walking to the terrace with a coffee cup in her hand, she turned to take a sip, and saw him standing on the terrace with Christmas boxer shorts decorated with reindeers and no shirt. The temptation of his wide shoulders, long muscular arms and hard body is too much for April, and she almost falls across the banister. She has to hold on to it to keep from fainting. Lust overtakes her before she can bring her body under control. "Can I get a cup of coffee?" he asked with an irresistibly devilish grin. April felt breathless at first, and then she recovered. "Are you talking to me?" He glanced around and his smile widened. Beautiful teeth. Beautiful green eyes with those heavenly long dark lashes. Handsome strong face, she thought. "Since there's nobody here but you and me, then I guess I am talking to you," he said with an easy smile. "After you insulted me about my afro, there is no way I'm inviting you to coffee." She wished she hadn't said that. His smile relaxed and he said, "I didn't know I had insulted you." "I didn't know what to say to you and I was drunk," Dominic said. April thought any man who can fuck two women at one time, and can try to get another one in his bed, had to have known what he was doing. Or he was an idiot. "This is all new for me," he said. "I see how new this is to you. I saw it last night." Her mouth tightened. "So you're a peeping Tom," he said. "You're an idiot. I don't want to talk to you." And she made a gesture to turn her back to him. "Would you settle for I was drunk?" "Not even that. You're a man with experience." Dominic grinned. Not a wide one. That was a compliment he hadn't expected. "And you're going to tell me that you're not a woman who has a certain amount of experience?" "No, I'm not telling you that, but what I'm saying is I know when a man is full of himself, and you are full of yourself. Why don't you come to me and let me show you how wrong you are?" Why don't you stay where you are, and let me believe what I want to believe about you? Because you are wrong about me, and you have piqued my curiosity, and when I'm curious about a woman, I have to know more about her. The only thing you will know about me is that I'm young, black, and I don't want to talk to you. And beautiful. You're the prettiest woman I've seen in a long time. You had a house full last night. But I wasn't attracted to any of them. It's something about you that I like. That draws me into you. Dominic's voice is low and hoarse. I bet you say that to all the women you take to bed. As a matter of fact, if you knew me better, you would know that I haven't said that to a woman in years. Why, are you gay and you want to prove to yourself that you're not? She raised an eyebrow and shot him a smirk, raising the right side of her mouth. I gave you an invitation last night. You could have found out all that you needed to find out about me. You would have certainly discovered if I were gay. And he shot her an erotic smile and a wink. The invitation is still open. Care to change me from gay to straight? Like I said, I found out all I needed about you. I'm getting hungry talking to you. I'm going to cook breakfast. You can cook. Oh, I forgot you're black. Black women cook. Now I know I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to have coffee or breakfast with you. Ever. April swiveled on her heels quick and strutted into the house. What did I say? Come back, he shouted at April. You have a beautiful ass. I mean assets. You have beautiful eyes, Dominic said as April scurried into the house. She forgot all she had been wearing was a tee and panties, where her cheeks were ample and the panties a few sizes too small to cover her tight, hard ass.